back in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I did a video here a couple years ago in the winter, and there was snow on the ground, and I went through some of the worst neighborhoods at that time. And today we're going to go through the 5 worst neighborhoods in Minneapolis. And if you asked 5 different people, they'd all give you 5 different cities or 5 different neighborhoods probably as the worst. But using the criteria I use is the percentage they're worse than the national average. And there are 5 neighborhoods that are 800% or higher worse than the national average, 4 that are 900% worse. So those are the 5 that we're going to go through. And I think 2 of them I went through the last time. Currently, right now, we're in what would be called the North Minneapolis area. And just even pulling into here, this is, you can see the garbage everywhere. There's a sleeping bag there that looks like somebody might be living there. There's graffiti all over on the left side. I don't think the camera caught that. I don't know what this guy's doing. But this would be considered North Minneapolis. The first 2 neighborhoods we're going through are North Minneapolis area. There's a bunch of neighborhoods up in this area that would be considered, I mean, they're all considered bad, but these are the 2 that are the worst. And when I went through the last time, a couple of years ago, I don't think, I didn't go through either of these 2. Now this first one that we're going west on Dowling, by the way. People asked for the roads that we're on. So I'm going to try and say what roads we're on. We're going west on Dowling, and now we're turning to go south on North Knox Street. So this area, don't let these beautiful leaves and trees, that's just Minnesota for you. Do not let that fool you. This neighborhood is the Folwell Neighborhood. We might not be all the way to it, but we're really close to it right here. The Folwell Neighborhood is 901%. Their violent crime is 901% higher than the national average. Now these are neighborhoods that where it's that high. This is like a bulk of the North Milwaukee area is 900% higher. There aren't all that many areas that are this bad as this area is listed as. And again, like when I came through here, it was 2 years ago. It was in January, and they had just gotten a ton of snow, so there was snow on the ground, and everything looked pretty. And now I'm here in the fall, and I thought, okay, this would be a better time to go through. But with all these trees looking pretty like this, it doesn't make anything look even at all bad. I mean, not even a little bit. There aren't even people hanging out. There's Folwell Park. It's 50 degrees out, so maybe we'll see people hanging out, maybe we won't. These houses all look pretty nice though, for this area to be as bad as they say it is. But this is the second worst one that we'll go through of the 5. This is, or the second best one, I guess I should say, of the 5 that we're gonna go through. Let's go turn down one of these, see if we can see something a little better. But Minneapolis, they had 72 homicides last year. In 2023, they're on pace for more than that. This is the late October of 2024 that I'm driving through here. They're on pace for more than that this year in 2024. In 2022, they had 80 homicides. In 2021, they had 97. So they've been getting better. The homicide numbers are going down. Until 2024 numbers come out, they should be headed back up. And then in 2020, they had 83. But if you look back to pre the summer of Floyd, in 2019, they had 47. And now a good year is if they're in the 70s. So this, like I said, this isn't looking bad. These neighborhoods, it was the same thing. I drove through all those areas 2 years ago, and everything looked, it all looked nice. Although the leaves are probably hiding a lot of the garbage that's probably on the street. When I pulled in, there was so much garbage. all the side roads, everything, there was so much garbage everywhere. I was like, this is just horrible. But when you get into these residential areas, it doesn't seem to be as bad. I mean, some of these houses could use a little bit of work, but they're not anything like an extremely bad area would have. So the murder rates here, anyway, in the city of Minneapolis as a whole, and this is Lowry. I've heard of this road. This road is not a good road either. Lowry. We're gonna head west on Lowry. I've heard of this road, so I know this road's not good. I'm gonna go up this one just a little bit to see what this looks like. But the murder rates here since the summer of Floyd have been up in the 20 or in the low 20s, which, if you want a comparison, there was one year, I think it was actually 2021, that Minneapolis had the same murder rate as Chicago. Chicago's murder rate is typically right around 22. Let's actually go up to this busier road and see what's going on up here on a busier road, what things look like. So Chicago's murder rate is typically stays in right around 22, 23 every year. It's about the same. And there was one year that just a couple of years ago, like I said, I think it's 2021, that the murder rate was the same in Minneapolis as Chicago. And the murder rate, people will say, oh, there's not as many murders in Minneapolis as there is in Chicago, but the murder rate is based on the population per 100,000 people. Since 2020, it's been in the upper teens, low 20s. And pre-2020, it was like 10. So pre-2020, having a murder rate of 10, there's a whole bunch of people hanging out on the street corner over there, but some of them are maybe they're just waiting for the bus. That's not even a big deal. A murder rate of 10 is what I would consider regular city bad. It's, if you live in a city, you have to expect a certain amount of crime, a certain level of crime, and that's what I would consider regular city bad, a murder rate of 10. When you have a murder rate of 20 or higher, you're getting into, it's not a good area, or it's not a safe place bad. So this is Penn, and we're going south on Penn. Again, the houses look okay. I thought if we got on a busier road, maybe, I mean, well, some of these need some work. So we're getting closer now to, we're not in the Folwell, well, that building looks like that's, we're now going to be entering the Jordan area. And this is the best of the three that or best of the five we're going to look at. And it is 826%. Their violent crime is 826% worse than the national average. And they just block roads and don't tell you not to turn down these roads. So we will go down this beautiful alley here. Oh, maybe I could have fit through there. Anyway, we're going to go down this alley. So this is the Jordan area. And this one, I don't think I even drove through this one the last time I was here either. But this one I think has gotten worse since then. Because, yeah, some of this... Oh, they tore that house down. Well, at least there's an empty lot there, a couple vacant lots, and they're not filled with homeless encampments. So, I mean, the area can't be that bad. Either that or nobody wants to live up here. Yep, and there you got some, looks like some Halloween decorations out here. I'm not sure what road we're on. Okay, we're on West 26th heading east right now. And so, like I said, this is the Jordan area, and this is 826%, their violent crime, 826% worse than the national average. And I must somehow be missing the bad areas of these neighborhoods, because this doesn't seem all that bad to me. And again, well, that house looks like it needs to be torn down. Some of these houses, I guess, actually aren't that great. But the assault rates here, yeah, these houses, it doesn't, I mean, they're older houses, you know, and they're actually in halfway decent shape. But the assault rates here since 2020, they've been in the 600s to 700s per 100,000 people. Pre-2020, they were in the 500s. So pre-20, Chicago is like, Chicago's assault rate is in the 550, let's say. It's in the low 500s. So pre-2020, Minneapolis had the same assault rate as Chicago. Now their assault rate is much higher. So statistically, if you look at just assault rates and murder rates, Minneapolis is at least on par with, if not worse than Chicago. The numbers that they produce now. And I know there was a few years ago, maybe it was just last year. It was a while ago that I would follow these, because I would do that weekly homicide report that I don't really do anymore. I would follow these cities, and I would follow Minneapolis, and I would look at their website every single week, and the numbers of homicides would go down. It would be like one week it would say 45, and then the next week it would say 43, and the next week after that it would say 41. And I'm like, how are the homicides going down? How are there not? I mean, did these people come back to life? So I don't 100% trust the numbers that come out of Minneapolis, only because I followed it very closely. And I've noticed that they kind of smudge the numbers. It appears that they smudge the numbers. Whether they really are or not, I don't know. But it appears, and I can't see, and it appears like they kind of smudge the numbers a little bit, because people aren't coming back to life. If you've already, you know, deemed them dead, that somebody killed them and it's a homicide, they're not coming back to life. But their homicide numbers kept like going down instead of going up. But so far this doesn't look, I mean, it doesn't look that bad. Their auto theft rate here is really high though. It's well above 1,000 per 100,000 people. And in 2022, it was 1456. So that's per 100,000 people. That's a lot of people getting their cars stolen. And auto theft, I'm assuming they're including the carjackings in that, which means you have people that not only lost their car, but lost their car violently. And we're gonna go up here. When we get up here a little bit, we're gonna go through the first neighborhood I drove through in the last video was the Hawthorne area. They just call that area North Minneapolis, but all of this area is called North Minneapolis. And again, the houses don't look as bad as I would expect them to look. But it's the West Broadway is a road that 2 years ago when I did that video where I drove in the winter through there, they had 3 mass shootings within just a few days, 3 mass shootings within a week of each other. And that was the reason I wanted to drive through the area, was because they had so many mass shootings in just a small, it was all within like a 3 or 4 block radius, and all literally within a week. And that was West Broadway. That's the road right here that we're on. And this Marathon gas station was one of the ones that had the mass shooting. To the right was a, what was it called? It was a liquor store, Merwin's Liquor, to the right. There was a Merwin's Liquor had a mass shooting. This Marathon had a mass shooting, and a bar. When we get up to, if I'm remembering this right, when we make a left here and we get up to the a little bit closer to the freeway, there was a bar that had a mass shooting as well. So they were all within just a couple blocks of each other, all within a week. So this is, I think they call this the Hawthorne neighborhood. I should have looked that up. I didn't realize I was going to actually be driving on this road because I didn't really plan it that way. But yeah, a lot of this is just all closed down stuff. Nobody's going to open a business up here. People get shot up here all the time. And this isn't even one of the worst anymore. I think I looked up this neighborhood because I wanted to drive through it again. And it was like 400 and maybe 420% worse than the national average, their violent crime. I think their property crime was really high, but the violent crime was really low. And that's kind of what I look at, is more of the violent crime stuff. Yeah, a lot of graffiti, a lot of garbage. Lot of graffiti. Oh wait, maybe we're, I feel like I'm remembering this wrong. Oh no, that looks like we're getting close to the freeway. But their overall, back to the stats, their overall theft rate, oh, Winners gas station. That's the one that had, not that Marathon back there, this Winners gas station is the one that had the mass shooting. And then that bar was right off the freeway, so just up on the left. And I must have not seen the Merwin's Liquor, or we didn't drive past it, but the Merwin's Liquor is back up there farther. Yeah, no, it was this Winners gas station. That's what had it, not the Marathon. Sorry about the stats. I'm trying to remember, and when you're not that familiar with a city, it's harder to remember things. Yeah, it was this Winners gas station, a bar up here on the left, right by the freeway, and that Merwin's Liquor, which we might have actually even drove past it and I didn't see it. It would have been on the left side. It was either that or we were right by it when we turned. But right now we're going east on West Broadway. And this is one of the worst strips of road. Like I said, it had 3 mass shootings in a week, all within just a few blocks. I don't remember the name of the bar, but if we get close enough, maybe a 4th Street bar or something. It had a number, I think. Oh, 4th Street Saloon. I don't even know how I remembered that. 4th Street Saloon right there on the left. All right, I'm going to jump on the freeway and I will catch you when I get on the other side of all this. Because the rest of the next 3 neighborhoods are all on the south side of town. So the GPS started routing me, didn't get me onto the freeway. It looked like we were getting on the freeway there, but then it took me on whatever this, we're on South Washington. We're heading east on South Washington. It's taking me through downtown, so I thought I'd film some of it. We are on the north, yeah, we'd be on the north side of downtown, and this isn't something I would have driven through the last time I came through here, I don't think. But we can get some more of these stats out of the way. So the overall theft rate is in the 3,000s per 100,000 people. But it's been that way for years, so that's not a stat that went up because of the summer of Floyd. A lot of the stats in the city went way up because of the summer of Floyd, but that one has been consistently bad for a long time. This part of downtown doesn't look too bad. Crooked Pint Ale House. Looks like a huge bar. And so Minnesota said that they showed a 6.9% decrease in violent crime in 2023. There were 181 murders in 2023. 40% of them came from just the city of Minneapolis. There were 182 murders in the state of Minnesota in 2022, and 44% came from just the city of Minneapolis. So this is like one of those cities that make the entire state's stats really bad, because you're looking at, 40 and 44% of the homicides in the state coming from just the one city. I should have looked to see what St. Paul produces, because St. Paul, I think they have about half the number. Minneapolis is in the 70s and 80s, and I think St. Paul's still in the 30s as far as homicides every year, like 36 or something. I should have looked that up, so don't quote me on that, but it's in the mid to upper 30s is what St. Paul produces every year. But if 40% of your homicides come from one city, Chicago, if you looked at Chicago though within the state of Illinois, Rockford is bad, and they got a couple other bad cities in Illinois, but for the most part, Chicago probably produces well over half of that. And 1/3 of all the assaults, so 40% of all the homicides, 40 to 44% of all the homicides in the state are in Minneapolis, and 1/3 of all the assaults in Minnesota occur in Minneapolis. And that's because I did a video of Bemidji, Minnesota, which is often considered the most dangerous city in Minnesota. It was this small, almost looked like a touristy town. There was a lake there and all this stuff, and I'm like, how is this one of the worst cities? Yeah, a lot of this stuff is all boarded up on the right. It's all boarded up. There's graffiti. But this touristy town, it was way up in the middle of nowhere in Minnesota, and it was considered one of the most dangerous cities in Minnesota. And when I drove through it, I didn't see it. I didn't see anything that would lead you to think that it was even a little bit of a dangerous city. Not even a little. And but people commented on it and said, yeah, it's really bad. And they knew certain areas that, probably were just areas that I hadn't driven through. But a lot of that was assaults. I don't think they had very many homicides there. I think their violent crime was all mostly assaults and forced sexual assaults and stuff like that, and not homicides. Yeah, a lot of this is all boarded up too with graffiti. I don't know what part of town this would be considered. It's still probably the northeast corner. The northeast corner of downtown, I'm guessing. But it's the north, we're on the north part. We're still on South Washington. Although it looks like up here we'll be getting on to something else, but I can't see the sign to see what we're going to be getting on. So as a city as a whole, we're going through the 5 neighborhoods that are really bad, 4 of which have 900%. Their violent crime is 900% worse than the national average. The violent crime here is in the city as a whole is 232% worse than the national average. So it's that's bad. If you look at the violent crime for a stat for even, I keep comparing it to Chicago just because it's so close to Chicago, but if you look at the violent crime in a city like Chicago, it's only 100 and some percent higher. But that's only because there's so many people in Chicago that they can absorb all this violent crime with just the mass number of people that they have, when you look at it on a percentage basis and not just on an overall number basis. And look at this. Look where we're going through. See those buildings right there on the right with all the apartment building with all those colored things? This is Little Mogadishu. I've heard about this place. This is where all the Somalians live. We literally just accidentally came upon this. Oh, there, look at all the graffiti here. This is Little Mogadishu. This is actually what they call it. Look at all those buildings are closed down on the left. Holy cow. Yeah, no, I've seen pictures of those buildings before with the different colored windows, because I remember looking at, there's a building right by here. I remember looking at it, and the picture of the building reminded me of that TV show Good Times with the dynamite guy. Yeah, this is Little Mogadishu. I should have looked up this place. I don't have the stats on this area, but this is like this. If you're like not from Somalia, you're definitely not in the higher percentage of the demographic here, because this is all, well, all this stuff looks like it's closed down. Yeah, this is a huge Somalian area, and they literally, I'm not even joking, they literally call this area Little Mogadishu. I didn't even think I should have planned for this area. It's really, there's a lot of garbage. There's a lot of garbage in this. Those two people are tweaking on something. The one guy looks like he might not even be with us anymore. Yeah. I'm definitely a minority pulling through this area. One, because I was born in America, and two, because for other reasons. Holy cow, I can't believe it came upon that. I wish I would have looked that up so I knew more about it. Well, I guess it turned out good that the GPS routed me not on the freeway and in through these back areas. We're gonna kind of skirt this light. Well, wait it, kind of. Yeah, look at the garbage. Garbage. There's a bunch. I should have looked them up too. There's a bunch of tent cities here. They like clean them up, and then the tent city just moves like another block away. Yeah, this area's got a lot of graffiti and garbage too. This would be, I guess, the east side of downtown. We might not even be still in downtown anymore. Right? Yeah, it probably is still downtown. And there's a lot of garbage. Although there's a garbage can right there with the lid open. Maybe that's all the garbage might have blown out. Well, I'm glad we drove through that part. So what I was saying before that, though, the violent crime here as a city as a whole is 232% worse than the national average, which is really high. I mean, there's cities that are way higher, don't get me wrong, but I mean, you get up, especially if you get up close to that 300 range, you're in this 232 is extremely iffy. And that's as the city as a whole. So, you know, you got to figure there are safe areas. And the property crime is at 169, which actually isn't that bad. But the city is showing a year over year, the Minnesota state is showing a decrease in violent crime, but the city of Minneapolis is showing a year over year increase of 19% with the violent crime. 19%. You can't do that for too many years in a row without having serious, serious problems with your city. Because that's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of, oh, that guy's got an actual bed there. That guy we just drove past, he's got an actual bed right underneath there. It's 50 degrees out right now. Last night, it probably, if it was 50 and it's 11 a.m., it was 50 degrees right now. It was not very warm, I can guarantee you that, last night, and that guy's sleeping right there. So somehow the state of Minnesota is showing a decrease in crime in spite of the fact that Minneapolis is showing a huge increase. So that's either a little bit, again, of the smudge in the numbers, or the rest of the state somehow got really good and Minneapolis stayed bad. Your odds of becoming a victim here of a crime is 1 in 16. 1 in 16, and that's actually, I mean, that's on the high side, 1 in 16. A lot of these bad areas are like that, but that's on the high side. So we're about to go into, right up here, we'll be in the East Phillips neighborhood, which is 945% worse than the national average. Their violent crime, 942% worse. Little Earth. So this is the East Phillips neighborhood. I believe that I went through this in my last video, the one that I did in the snowy winter video. So this is the second worst neighborhood in Minneapolis, and their violent crime 945% worse than the national average. And this, I did a lot of research on Minneapolis, and I don't want to give false information because I might be not remembering it correctly, but I believe this area has a huge Native American population, and I should have looked that up knowing I was going to go through here. Yeah, there's graffiti on that guy's fence right there. East Phillips, I don't know what that building said it was called. There's a police car parked there. Apartment buildings. Yeah, these houses look a little more run down. Yeah, but there's a cop sitting in that patrol car. There's a cop sitting in that patrol car. So, oh, there's a person sleeping right on that bench. Yeah, they have a lot of homeless people here for how cold. I mean, it's cold. They tried to get all the people. Well, I haven't followed it since that last time I came through here, but they tried to get all the people into homeless shelters and they wouldn't go. They kept moving out, or they didn't want to go. They just kept moving their tents someplace else and putting up new tent cities, and the city didn't really stay on top of it. So yeah, so this is the East Phillips area. And again, these, I don't know if it's because there's leaves on the ground hiding all the garbage, or it's because the trees look pretty changing the leaves. But these, for as bad as these areas are, they don't look as bad as what their statistics say they are. So just some more stats on the city before we get to the next neighborhood while we're still in this one. Oh, there's a bunch of people living on the street up that block. Maybe we can swing back and see that. The population of Minneapolis is 423,000. It's been declining since, guess what? The summer of Floyd 2020. Go figure, people lived here and watched their city get destroyed and decided that they wanted to move out. Yeah, there's a lot of people on that block. I'm not turning down that one. It's a bad enough area that I don't really want to engage with anyone too closely. Especially on a block like that where I would kind of be stuck there. Well, someone looks like they might be remodeling that one. Habitat for Humanity. Okay, well, they're remodeling that one. Sorry, lady. So the city is 58% white, 19% black, 10% Hispanic, and 5% Asian. So it's pretty diverse. These areas that we've gone through are probably not anywhere near that same statistics. But we're getting now, I don't know if we're actually in it or if we're just really close to the Ventura Village area. The Ventura Village neighborhood, which is 906, their violent crime, 906% higher than that national average. So these are really bad areas, and the houses are a little run down, but they don't look like really bad. You know what I mean? They're bad, but they don't look really bad. There's been a lot of people hanging out, especially down over since we got in the southern part of the city. There's a lot of people just hanging out on the streets. But for the most part, let's go this way. For the most part, it hasn't been too bad. The average age in Minneapolis is 33, which is a little on the low side. East Franklin. Okay, so I did a drive through here. That's right. I did a drive through here last year where I drove down. Oh, there's US Bank Stadium straight ahead. Where I drove down the road. I think East Franklin was one of the roads. Let's turn right here. Was one of the roads that the riots were on. Yeah. Let's just drive down this one a little bit. So that was the Ventura area, or this is the Ventura Village area. All of these buildings on the left are all boarded up. I'm pretty sure this Franklin was the road that all that riot and all that stuff they had going on here happened on. So we'll stay on this just for a little bit. Yeah, all these buildings are closed up. The Minnesota Chippewa tribe, even that looks like it's closed up. We'll stay on this for a couple minutes. Or not a couple minutes, but a couple blocks, and just see. I think maybe if we're in the right area, we'll pass that precinct that got burnt down. When I came through here, I come here for work. Literally every year, but normally it's in the fall. Normally it's in the winter, like January when I first filmed that one. We got a bunch of people hanging out right there. Okay, dude, start moving. I don't really want to stop here. Yeah. It's normally in like January, February when it's really cold here. But I remember driving through that one year too. I think last year I drove through to look at the path of the riots, just to see what the places looked like. That guy's flagging me down. Oh, you want my attention? Yep. Okay. So there's a 48% home ownership rate, which is a little on the, anything over 50% is good, and anything over 50%, typically the neighborhoods are much safer because people care about the city a little more if they, have some kind of stake in the neighborhood. The average income is $55,000 a year, which is actually pretty good for a city like this. There's a 17% poverty rate, which sounds high, but is actually, again, it's kind of pretty good. It's a huge number, but it's kind of pretty good for a city that's bad. There's a 34% marriage rate, which is really low. And that's kind of typical with, areas that aren't as good. 52% of the people were born either in Minneapolis or in the state of Minnesota. And it's showing 85% are native born and 7% are non-citizens. So if they're admitting to 7% non-citizens, it's actually much higher than that. So this area now that we're in, this is the West Phillips neighborhood. We're going to turn up this road here. The West Phillips neighborhood. Oh no, Midtown Phillips. Midtown Phillips neighborhood. 900 and their violent crime is 962%. I should have kept going on that road. That looked bad. Their violent crime is 962% worse than the national average. This is the worst neighborhood in Minneapolis. Violent crime, 962% worse than the national average. This is on par with some of the worst areas of like Milwaukee, although Milwaukee gets up into the 1,000 times worse. And again, don't let the beautiful leaves on the trees fool you. This area is really bad. I'm gonna turn around and go back and drive up that one road that looked like it actually started getting worse. So we can see, I haven't seen anything that's like what I would consider really bad. I mean, a little bits here and there, but for the most part, these neighborhoods overall don't look that bad. Like, you would buy a house here and be like kind of fooled into thinking, oh, it's not so bad. You know, until I guess things start happening. So the cost of living here, goods and services is 5% lower than the national average, and housing is 36% higher. So that explains why there's a low home ownership rate. If the housing is that expensive, people just can't afford to buy a house, so they end up renting. So here's where things too get bad with the stats here. The schools in Minneapolis as a whole, not necessarily just these neighborhoods we went into, but the city as a whole, they graduate, 37% of their students graduate proficient at reading and math. So just over 1 in 3 graduate at a 12th grade level for reading and math. The state of Minnesota is at 52%, which doesn't sound good, but is of the better states averages. And the U.S. average is 48%. So throughout the United States, on a whole, less than half of the kids graduate at a 12th grade level for reading and math. And in Minneapolis, it's only 37%. So that, things like that are signs that the city is not, if they don't change that stuff, the city's not going to get any better. The crime's just going to keep going up. So now we're going south on Bloomington, for those of you who want to know what road we're on. And we're kind of finishing up this drive because that was the Midtown Phillips. That was the last area we're going to go through. I just wanted to see this area we're about to, the buildings up here, and see what they look like. Oh, they actually, all those look open. Oh, the left side was all closed down, but the right, well, that's not. That auto place looks like it's closed. The whole left side, every single thing is closed up. So 87% of the people that live here completed the 8th grade, and 86% completed high school. So those were the worst neighborhoods, and I think if I ever end up here in the middle of the summer, I'll have to go through in the middle of the summer, because the areas didn't look that bad. I mean, some of them are run down, like that house had a posted, like the city condemned it, posting on the door. But for the most part, the stuff doesn't look that bad here. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it doesn't look that bad. That's a one way. I'm just gonna drive up a little bit, but those were the 5. There are a lot of people with the full-on Middle Eastern garb on here, with the full-on, where the ladies, where you can't see their face, anything but their eyes. Well, at least this lady's got her eyes, you can see her eyes. Homeless person. I don't know what neighborhood we're going into, I just kept driving. Oh, this is Lake Street. Yeah, the Lake Street was one of the ones, I think, from the riot too. Either that or they have a lot of shootings, because I've heard of this road. I'm going to turn here. We'll just go a little bit further, see what we see, and then maybe Lake Street was the one that had the riots as well. But anyway, I'm going to let this play out just for a couple minutes. You see a little bit more of the city, but This is a city that really, unless they really start doing something, it's going downhill fast. And they're losing population, and if it wasn't for them bringing in people that aren't supposed to be here. This car's just parking here. The lady's looking at me like, the state is saying, or the state is saying that their population is increasing in Minnesota. And they're saying that because they're bringing in so many people from our border that aren't supposed to be here. But the state as a whole is losing a bulk of their population, and a lot of that is people moving out of Minneapolis and St. Paul and moving to other states, you know, like, you know, Florida and Texas and that. So again, with the smudge in the numbers, like if you're going to bring in a bunch of people that technically aren't supposed to be here, yeah, there's a lot of graffiti and garbage through here too, that technically aren't supposed to be here, and then say your population is rising and make it seem like, you know, everybody wants to live there. It's all false data. You know, it might be, statistically, it might be true that there's a big increase in people living here, but you're losing the actual population of the city. You're just replacing them with, you know, like I said, people that just came across the border. Yeah, this is all kind of, I don't know what part of the city this is, but we're going east on East Lake Street, and now I'm gonna let this play out just for like another minute or so, and we're gonna call it a day on this one, because this one I think got pretty long just because I ended up in areas I didn't expect to end up in. So I'll let you watch a few more minutes of this. Maybe not even that long, maybe like 30 seconds longer. And thanks for watching.